The billionaire spoke only in Chinese, and everyone stayed silent until the black maid replied. The air in the boardroom was thick with tension. Ariel could feel it pressing against her chest as she quietly entered, carrying a tray of tea. The long mahogany table stretched out before her like a battlefield. Around it sat men in sharp suits, their faces tight with anxiety. At the head of the table stood Mr. Li Chen, the billionaire CEO of Xiang Corporation. He was tall, lean, and immaculate in a tailored black suit. His slicked back hair was perfectly in place, but it wasn't his appearance that unsettled the room. It was the fact that he spoke only Mandarin. This meeting was critical. A group of foreign investors had flown in to negotiate a deal that could rescue the company from financial disaster, but the interpreter they had arranged weeks ago hadn't shown up. The executives whispered nervously among themselves. "Where's the translator?" "He confirmed he'd be here." "I heard rumors. Maybe the rival company got to him." "That would be sabotage." Ariel carefully placed the tray on the side table, trying to make herself invisible. She had only been working as a maid at the company for a week. Her job was simple: clean the room, serve the tea, stay silent. But she heard everything, and more importantly, she understood. Mr. Li's voice sliced through the murmurs. "Shijian Daole. Time's up." The executives froze. None of them spoke Mandarin. That was the problem. "Sir," one man began hesitantly, "please, give us just a moment. Our translator—" "Meiyu Shijian. No more time." Mr. Li's tone was even, but his eyes were sharp as blades. He continued speaking in rapid Mandarin, his voice quiet but cutting. "You hired a translator. Where is he? You're wasting my time." The executives shifted uncomfortably in their chairs, looking at one another in panic. Ariel's heart pounded. Her hands trembled as she clasped them tightly. She knew she wasn't supposed to speak. That wasn't her place. But if she didn't, this deal would collapse. Right here. Right now. Mr. Li slammed his palm against the table, making several of the men flinch. "Shenzai, if you don't speak now, stay silent forever." Ariel felt her breath catch in her throat. She couldn't let this fall apart. She stepped forward. "Sir, I can help translate." The words escaped her lips before she could stop herself. Every head in the room turned toward her. The executives blinked in disbelief, as if truly seeing her for the first time. Mr. Li's cold gaze locked on her, his dark eyes narrowing. "Xuan, ni hui shuo zhongwen?" "You speak Chinese." Ariel's palms were damp, but she stood tall. "Yes," she replied, in perfect Mandarin. "I lived in Shenzhen for 5 years. I can translate, if you'll allow me." The room went still. Mr. Li studied her, his expression unreadable. The investors glanced at one another, their eyes darting between the billionaire and the maid they had completely overlooked. Finally, Mr. Li gave a single sharp nod. "How ba? All right, let's begin." Ariel exhaled, quietly but steadily, and stepped closer to the table. She took her place between Mr. Li and the investors, the center of attention. Her voice was calm as she began translating. She delivered each sentence with precision, Mr. Li's sharp Mandarin flowing like a blade, and Ariel catching every nuance, every tone. Her English was smooth and professional, each word landing exactly where it needed to. The executives leaned back in their seats, stunned into silence, as the maid they had barely noticed became the most essential person in the room. Mr. Li's gaze never left her. Was he impressed? Angry? Testing her? She didn't know, and it didn't matter. The meeting had begun, and all eyes were on her. Her hands didn't shake. Not once. This was her moment, and she wasn't going to fail. At first, the executives sat frozen, unsure how the maid had suddenly become their lifeline. Just minutes ago, their plan had been crumbling. The translator they'd hired had mysteriously failed to appear, likely bribed by a corporate rival intent on sabotaging the deal. But now, everything had shifted. Ariel felt her pulse pounding in her ears, but her voice remained calm and clear as she moved seamlessly between Mandarin and English. "I hope you understand that our product is more than just a financial success," she translated. "We're looking to build a long-term partnership, not just chase short-term gains." Mr. Lee's eyes stayed on her. There was something in his expression she couldn't quite read. Was it skepticism, curiosity, or respect? The investors nodded thoughtfully, their guarded postures beginning to soften. One of them leaned forward. "This is the kind of commitment we like to hear," he said in English. "But how do we know your supply chain can keep up with our scale?" Ariel translated flawlessly. Mr. Lee replied sharply, "Gao tameng yuchi sanbei." "Tell them our supply chain is 3 times more advanced than they expect." Ariel relayed his message word for word, her tone firm but not arrogant, echoing Mr. Lee's quiet confidence. The investors exchanged looks, impressed. 2 hours passed. Ariel didn't falter, not once. She navigated complex financial terms, cultural nuances, and the subtle shifts of power around the room with the poise of someone who belonged there. She didn't just interpret words, she translated intent. By the end of the meeting, the investors were smiling. "This could work," one said. "We'll draft the initial agreements and send them over by the end of the week." Relief washed over the executives like a wave. The lead investor stood and extended a hand to Mr. Lee. "This meeting went much smoother than we expected. Your translator is exceptional." Mr. Lee didn't immediately respond. His eyes rested on Ariel, calm and unreadable. Then in Mandarin he spoke softly. "Tabushi women defanyi." "She's not our translator." Ariel hesitated. Should she translate that part? "Tajishi gebaomu." "She's just a maid." Her stomach tightened. But then Mr. Lee added, almost as an afterthought, "Dan tabiren he joanye fanyi du yao chu se." But she performed better than any professional interpreter. The room seemed to exhale in unison. The executives turned to Ariel, a few still trying to wrap their heads around what had just happened. The woman they had overlooked, who had quietly served their tea, had just saved their entire operation. "Thank you, Ariel," one of them murmured. "You saved this company today." She gave a small, polite nod, saying nothing. Her heart was still pounding too loud to speak. When the investors left, the boardroom slowly emptied, until only Ariel and Mr. Lee remained. He stood silently, his back to her, staring out the floor-to-ceiling windows at the glittering city skyline. "Why do you speak Chinese?" he asked at last, his voice low and measured. Ariel clasped her hands in front of her. "I worked in China before, sir." "For how long?" 5 years. Mr. Lee turned to face her. The sharpness in his features had softened slightly, though his gaze still held that same, unreadable intensity. "You surprised me today. You didn't have to step in. Why did you?" Ariel hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "Because," she said quietly, "it didn't feel right to stand by and watch everything fall apart when I could do something about it." Mr. Lee studied her in silence for a long moment. "Most people would have stayed quiet. Most people aren't me." Her voice was barely above a whisper. A flicker of something, amusement, passed over his face. It was so brief she wasn't sure she'd seen it at all. "Take tomorrow off," he said suddenly. "You've earned it." She blinked, caught off guard. "Sir," "and come to my office the day after. he added without looking back. We'll discuss your future here. Before she could respond, he walked past her and exited the room, his footsteps fading into silence. Ariel stood alone, staring after him. She wasn't sure what had just happened, but she knew one thing for certain. Her life had changed. For the first time in years, she allowed herself a small, genuine smile. She had spoken up when no one else dared, and it had changed everything. If this story touched your heart, be sure to like the video and subscribe for more powerful, emotional, and unexpected stories. And don't forget to tell us where you're watching from in the comments. We love hearing your stories too. Until next time, stay kind, stay inspired, and keep watching.